There are two kinds of strength, the kind that builds walls and the kind that tears them down. It took me 58 years to learn the difference. I write this for you, grandson, so you'll understand what we fought for, what we nearly lost, what we finally became. The winter my sons were born, I was already old by Alpha standards. Most kings retire by 50 or die in battle. I'd ruled Iron's Peak Pack for 32 years, from our granite fortress in Colorado's highest peaks, where wind cuts like claws and tradition runs deeper than mountain roots. My father Richard had been iron unbending, unyielding, unbreakable. The Iron Kings, they called our line. 10 generations of Blackwood alphas who believed suffering bred strength, that hardship separated the worthy from the weak. I believed it too. Until Elena. She arrived in early spring as part of a treaty marriage. Northern Ridge was smaller than Iron Peak, poorer without our military might. Their Alpha James offered his daughter in exchange for protection. I accepted because I was desperate, 55 years old, 2 dead mates, no living heirs. My bloodline was failing. The pack whispered our family was cursed. Vincent Ashford, my high general, began positioning his nephew Thomas as potential successor. Never openly, but the implication was clear. Old king, no sons, time for transition. Elena stepped into my throne room wearing simple travel clothes, not ceremonial finery. Dark hair, gray eyes that cataloged everything. Her wolf was white beneath her skin, rare, either blessed or cursed, depending on superstition. She met my eyes directly. Most wolves, especially outsiders, drop their gaze before their Alpha King. Your Majesty, no tremor in here, no fear. Welcome to Iron Peak. The ceremony was scheduled for the following week. In the interim, she explored the palace like she was planning a campaign, asked questions that made my council uncomfortable. Why do women eat separately during pack gatherings? What purpose does that serve? Vincent explained that tradition separated wolves by function. She nodded thoughtfully, expression, suggesting she found the explanation inadequate. 3 days before our wedding, I found her in the northern watchtower at dawn. You're not supposed to be here. She glanced back. Then we're both breaking protocol. Are you having second thoughts? Constantly, but I gave my word. She turned fully. I know what this is, a transaction. You need sons. My feelings are irrelevant. The bluntness should have offended me. Instead, something in my chest loosened. Then we understand each other. Do we? She stepped closer. I'll do my duty, but I won't become invisible. And I won't raise wolves who are afraid of their own father. You think you know what children need. Neither have you, successfully. The words landed like a blade. She flinched immediately, regretting the cruelty. I'm sorry. True, Sarah and Rebecca both died carrying my children. You're right to be concerned. I kept my voice level despite old grief clawing up. But worry about survival first. Teaching methods can wait. We married 3 days later with 400 witnesses. That night in my chambers, she stood by the window watching snowfall. I meant what I said about not becoming invisible. I know. I'm sorry about your mates. You were honest. There's often overlap. I stayed by the door. Elena, I don't expect love, but I do need heirs. She turned. I'd like to think we could be kind to each other, even in a transaction. Kindness is a luxury in Iron Peak. Then maybe Iron Peak needs better luxuries. Something in me wanted to laugh or weep. This slight woman from a soft pack thought she could reform the Iron Kings with kindness. We can try. She crossed the room and placed her hand in mine. I led her to bed and tried to be gentle, though I wasn't sure I remembered how. Afterwards, she fell asleep with her back to me, as far to her side as possible. I lay awake remembering Sarah's laughter and Rebecca's fierce joy, wondering what it said about me that I'd married a woman who saw me as a necessary evil. The months that followed established uneasy rhythm. Elena learned protocols with systematic efficiency, but pushed back on pointless restrictions. The council didn't know what to make of her. She toured boundaries, met with families, asked pointed questions about resource allocation. I let her because refusing seemed more exhausting than accommodating. And because, surprisingly, I often agreed with her observations. She noticed inefficiencies I'd stopped seeing, questioned traditions I'd never examined. Against expectation, I found myself enjoying her company. We walked mountain paths in the evenings. She knew plant names I'd never learned, pointed out birds I'd stopped noticing. She asked about my childhood, my father, the early years of my rule. I asked about Northern Ridge, about her mother who died when Elena was 10, about being sent away from everything familiar. Lonely, but purposeful. She picked up a smooth stone, tucked it in her pocket. My father raised me to understand duty. This alliance protects my pack. You collect stones, memories. Each marks a moment. She glanced at me. Do you think that's foolish? I think it's human. She laughed, genuine amusement, not polite courtesy. The sound startled me. You're not what I expected, Damien. What did you expect? A tyrant. The stories about Iron Peak's kings aren't flattering. And now I think you're a man who's been alone too long, playing a role that doesn't quite fit. She met my eyes, if it ever did. I wanted to argue, but something in her steady gaze made deflection pointless. My father was iron. I've spent my life trying to be the same. Why? Because that's what protects the pack. Does it, or does it just make everyone too afraid to tell you when something's wrong? The question haunted me for weeks. 6 months into our marriage, Elena missed her cycle. The healer confirmed pregnancy 1 month along strong heartbeat. Terror gripped me. Sarah had made it 4 months before the bleeding. Rebecca reached 6 before the raiders came. Every pregnancy was a countdown to catastrophe. Elena found me in the armory, hands shaking as I sharpened my sword. You're going to cut yourself. I'm fine. You're not. She took the blade, set it aside. Talk to me. What if? Don't borrow tomorrow's grief today. Her hands found mine. I'm healthy. We take this one day at a time. I've already lost 2. I'm not them. She cupped my face. You don't have to carry this alone. That's what having a mate means. Something in me broke or finally healed. I pulled her close and held on, and for the first time in 30 years, I allowed myself to need someone. We told the pack at 2 months. Celebration was subdued. Everyone remembered previous pregnancies. But Elena moved through gatherings with serene confidence. At 6 months, the healer detected something unusual. More than one heartbeat. 3. You're carrying triplets. 3 sons. 3 chances for catastrophe. Elena squeezed my hand. 3. We'll need extreme caution. Whatever it takes, I said. That night, Elena placed my hand on her swollen belly. 3 separate rhythms, 3 distinct presences. 3 sons, Damien. 3 chances to do this right. 3 chances for something to go wrong. Always the optimist. Her smile was gentle. We're going to be fine. The labor started on a night when winter wind howled and snow fell thick, 3 weeks early. Elena's screams echoed through stone halls while I paced outside with Marcus, my adult son from Sarah, now 32, in High Commander. Father, you should rest. I can't. Elena isn't my mother, but she's stronger than you give her credit for. A scream cut off my response. The healer emerged, blood on her hands. The first one is coming. I pushed into the chamber. Protocol said I shouldn't be present. I didn't care. Elena saw me, and something like relief flickered through her pain. You're not supposed to be here. Neither are you. I took her hand. I'm not leaving. The first birth came with a wail that split the air. First son, strong cry, healthy. They placed him in Elena's arms briefly, tiny, red, furious, then took him to clean and check. 1 down, she whispered. The second came faster. Another son, smaller but equally loud. The healer's expression stayed neutral as they took him away. Elena was fading. The third birth was taking too long. Something was wrong. Elena, you need to push. Can't. Too tired. Yes, you can. I gripped her hand. 1 more. Stay with me. Trying. Push. Now. She screamed, raw and primal. Then silence. No cry. The healers moved fast. Panic clawed through me. Elena unconscious, baby not crying, then a sound. Weak, then stronger. A fierce wail. Third son. Smallest, but he's a fighter. They brought him to me. Impossibly tiny, covered in birth fluids, furious about being born. He opened alert eyes and seemed to study my face. Something in my chest cracked wide open. 3 living sons. Elena woke hours later. I sat beside her with all 3 in my arms. They're here. All perfect. She reached out. I placed the smallest in her arms first. He nuzzled against her, seeking food. He's so little. Normal for triplets. Names? We'd discussed options but never settled. Now they came easily. Ashton for the first, born fighting. Emmett for the second, quiet strength. Colt for this one, small but fierce. Elena smiled exhausted. Future of Iron Peak. If they survive the week. They will, we will. Her eyes held certainty I couldn't share. We're going to raise them with love, not fear. Break the cycle. I wanted to believe her. The first week passed in sleepless chaos. 3 infants meant 3 times the crying, feeding fear. Elena couldn't produce enough milk. We supplemented with goat's milk and prayers. On the 8th day, Vincent found me in the nursery watching them sleep. The first cleansing ceremony is scheduled for tomorrow. Everything's prepared. I'd forgotten. The cleansing ancient tradition where newborn heirs were bathed in sacred oils by trained servants while the pack witnessed. Supposed to bless them, protect them, welcome them formally. Tomorrow seems soon. Tradition dictates within 10 days. Your father believed timing mattered. Vincent hesitated. Waiting longer risks uncertainty. My father believed many things, and his beliefs kept Iron Peak strong for 40 years. The unspoken message, abandon tradition at your peril. Tomorrow then, healers present in case anything goes wrong. After Vincent left, I stood alone feeling the weight of centuries pressing down. Elena found me an hour later. You're troubled. I explained the cleansing ritual, ceremonial bath blessed, oils, formal presentation. As I described it, her expression shifted from curious to horrified. Strangers bathing our week-old babies in public. Trained servants who've done this for decades. They're not the baby's parents. Her voice took an edge. They're 1 week old. They need us, not ritual. It's tradition. Every heir for 10 generations. I don't care. I care about Ashton, Emmett, and Colt. They won't remember. We will, and so will they instinctively. She stepped closer. You love them. Don't hide behind tradition when you know this is wrong. It's how things are done. That's not an argument. That's an excuse. Elena, if you force this, you do it without my cooperation. She left me torn between centuries of tradition and my mate's unwavering conviction. The great hall was cold despite blazing braziers. 300 wolves gathered. Vincent stood at the front, expression grave. Marcus was there in full commander regalia. Elena sat beside my throne in formal Luna vestments, face pale but composed. She hadn't spoken to me since last night. 3 ceremonial servants entered, led by Margaret, wearing white robes. Behind them came assistants bearing copper basins engraved with ancient runes, steam rising from too hot water. A nurse brought Ashton first. He'd been calm but began whimpering as unfamiliar hands lifted him. Margaret held him with practiced efficiency that felt clinical rather than caring. She lowered him toward the water. The moment his skin touched surface, he screamed. Not hunger or discomfort. Genuine distress. Elena's hand found mine, gripping hard. I felt her preparing to move. I tightened my hold. Protocol demanded we remain seated. Margaret worked with methodical precision while Ashton screamed and thrashed. Pouring water from a silver ladle 3 times north, southeast, west. 12 separate pours, anointing his forehead with oil-drawing symbols. More prayers, more ritual. 10 minutes, the longest 10 minutes of my life. When they finally lifted him out, Ashton was red-faced, exhausted. They wrapped him in expensive cloth and placed him in a carrier without offering him to Elena first. My mate's fingernails drew blood where they pressed into my palm. They moved to Emmett, same process. He didn't scream as loudly, but his face contorted with confused pain, body rigid eyes searching the crowd for parents he couldn't find. Then Colt. Margaret lifted him with the same ritualistic care. The instant Colt touched water, he shrieked primal terror, something breaking. Elena moved. I barely caught her arm. Wait, he's in pain. The water is tested. Listen to him. Colt's screams filled the hall, bouncing off stone, magnified into something that came from everywhere. Margaret continued north, south, east, west, anointment blessing, while my smallest son screamed. I looked up and caught Marcus's eyes. Not disapproval. Recognition. The look of someone remembering their own suffering. When it ended, all 3 sons blessed and crying. Vincent stepped forward. The first cleansing is complete. May they grow strong in Iron Peak's traditions. Everyone bowed. Everyone murmured appropriate responses. Everyone except Elena. She went straight to our sons, ignoring Vincent's protest. Gathered all three carriers into her arms, making soothing sounds. They quieted almost immediately. Luna, Elena, the ceremony. Vincent's voice carried censure. Elena turned. Is over. My children need their mother. She looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, grief. Vincent, my voice came rough. Clear the hall. For a moment I thought he'd argue, but he bowed and began ushering people out. Marcus approached as the crowd dispersed. Father, permission to speak freely. I nodded. That was cruel. It was traditional. Those aren't mutually exclusive. He glanced toward Elena with the babies. I remember mine. Not the event, I was too young, but the aftermath. Being held by strangers for days. My mother crying in her chambers when she thought no one could hear. Sarah understood tradition. Sarah hated it. She told me years later watching me scream nearly broke her, but she didn't have Elena's courage to say no. After Marcus left, Elena and I walked back to our chambers in silence. Only when we were alone did she finally look at me. That was torture. It's how it's done. That's cowardice. She checked each baby. They flinched now. Look at them. She was right. Even gentle contact made them tense. The protocol exists to protect them, to control them, to teach from birth that authority matters more than comfort. Her voice stayed level, but each word cut. You went through this. Marcus went through this. Look what it created, men so afraid of appearing weak they can't hold their own children without protocols. I'm not afraid. You're terrified. You love them so much it hurts, but you'd rather follow your dead father's rules than trust your instincts. My father built Iron Peak into the strongest pack in the Rockies and died alone with a son who barely knew him. She picked up Colt, who settled immediately. Is that the legacy you want? I wanted to argue, but watching Elena comfort our son while he relaxed, I couldn't find words. There are 14 more ceremonies scheduled. Cancel them. I can't just... You're king. She looked up with exhausted certainty. Our children suffered today for no reason. I won't allow it to continue. Vincent will push back. The council will object. Let them. I'd rather be thought weak than actually be cruel. I stood caught between everything I'd been taught and everything I was learning. 10 generations pressed from one side. My mate's conviction pushed from the other. In the middle, 3 tiny sons who needed me to choose. Let me think about it. How much thinking does it require? Her expression shifted to pity. They're your children. You love them. Why isn't that enough? Because love isn't enough to protect them. No, but tradition isn't either. And at least love doesn't make them scream. She turned back to the babies, dismissing me. Vincent found me in my study an hour later. The ceremony was eventful. The Luna was concerned. Understandably, but her public breach was noted. He settled across from my desk. Several council members are worried. About what? About influence. About whether she understands the importance of appearances. Vincent's tone was neutral. Change is dangerous, especially change that appears to undermine strength. So we continue ceremonies that distress children because stopping might look weak. We continue traditions that served Iron Peak for 3 centuries because abandoning them creates uncertainty. He leaned forward. Damien, I've served you faithfully for 30 years. I've never steered you wrong. I know. Then trust me, the pack is watching. Watching whether you remain the king they need. After he left, I sat in darkness, wondering when caring about my children and sovereign had become political liability. Marcus entered without knocking. Vincent is wrong. I looked up surprised. The ceremonies, I remember more than I said earlier. He moved to the window. I was 3 months old. Obviously don't recall events themselves, but I remembered a feeling. In the nursery afterward, when anyone came near, even my mother, I'd flinch. Took months before I'd let her hold me without crying. You never mentioned. Because I thought it was normal. Thought all children felt that baseline distrust. He turned. It wasn't until visiting other packs, seeing fathers play with sons without that hesitation, that's when I realized Iron Peak taught me to fear comfort. You're strong, capable. Yes, but I'm also alone. I don't know how to be close to anyone. Every relationship fails because I can't let people in. His voice carried no self-pity, just acknowledgement. I traced that back to being taught from birth that strangers' hands are safer than parents. The confession hung between us. What would you have me do? Stop the ceremonies. Let Elena raise them as she thinks right. His expression was controlled. I can't get my childhood back, but they can have something different. Vincent thinks that's weakness. Vincent lost his son 20 years ago and never recovered. His judgment on child rearing is compromised. Marcus moved toward the door. You asked me once if I was happy. I said yes because it was expected. But the truth, I don't know what happiness feels like. And I think that's a direct result of how I was raised. He left me with those words echoing. I walked the corridors until I found myself outside the nursery. Soft sounds came from within Elena, singing something in a language I didn't recognize. I pushed the door open quietly. She sat in the rocking chair with all three babies balanced in her arms. Colt was awake, staring up at her face with that alert expression he had. You're not supposed to hold them more than 15 minutes. Protocol says it makes them dependent. Your protocols can go to hell. She said it without heat, focused on Colt. He couldn't settle, so I'm holding him until he feels safe. I crossed to them, knelt beside the chair. Hey there, little fighter. Colt's eyes shifted to me. No recognition yet, but no fear either. He needs this. Elena's hand stroked Colt's head. Constant contact, constant reassurance. Not scheduled affection, constant presence. That's not how it's done here. Then how it's done here is wrong. I reached out. Colt's tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb with surprising strength. Elena, I don't know how to do this. Be both king and father. Maintain strength while admitting traditions might be cruel. You start by choosing them. She looked at me with steady gray eyes. The pack will follow or they won't, but at least you'll be able to look at yourself. And if it destabilizes everything, then we defend ourselves together. She shifted Ashton slightly, but I won't raise warriors so afraid of appearing weak they can't love their own children. Somewhere a bell tolled midnight. Outside wind howled. In this room, 3 tiny heartbeats pulsed steady. No more ceremonies. Elena's eyes widened. What? No more cleansing ceremonies. Not for them, not for any children. The words came easier once started. We'll hold a pack assembly. Make it optional. Anyone who wants to continue the tradition can, but it won't be mandatory. Damien, you're right. I've been following rules without questioning whether they serve us. I touched Emmett's cheek. My father would call this weak. Maybe it is, but I'd rather be weak and present than strong and distant. You're not weak, you're evolving. Vincent won't see it that way. Then Vincent can challenge you. The confidence in her voice made me believe maybe we could actually do this. I called the assembly for the following evening. By then, word had spread through the palace grapevine that something significant was coming. 800 wolves gathered in the great clearing as torches lit the perimeter. I stood on the raised platform with Elena beside me, holding Colt. Nurses attended Ashton and Emmett nearby. Vincent stood with the council expression neutral. Marcus was in the crowd with these warriors. I raised my hand for silence. Wolves of Iron Peak, I'm canceling the cleansing ceremonies for my sons and making them optional for all families going forward. The silence was profound. Then everyone spoke at once. I let them vent before raising my hand again. I understand your concerns, but the decision is made. The rituals cause distress without clear benefit. Parental instinct should be trusted over rigid protocol. Mixed reactions rippled through the crowd. Younger parents looked relieved. Older wolves looked scandalized. What is our heritage built on specific rituals or the principle that Iron Peak wolves are strong and devoted to families? A young mother near front called out, "Will we be punished if we choose to continue?" No, each family decides. This is about choice, not mandates. More questions followed. I answered as best I could, aware I was rewriting culture in real time. Then Vincent stepped forward. My king, may I address the assembly? Every instinct screamed trap, but refusing would look afraid. Speak. Vincent faced the crowd. King Damien has outlined his reasoning, and I want you to know, he paused, I support his decision. Shock rippled through the assembly. I stared at him. 20 years ago, I lost my son Thomas in a bathing accident. My wife Brenna left me 2 years later. Said I'd become a stranger, consumed by grief. His voice roughened. Ever since I believed strict protocols would prevent tragedy. But I was wrong. The rules didn't protect Thomas. And clinging to that illusion, I've advocated for practices that hurt others. He looked at me directly. The king is right. Evolution isn't weakness, it's courage. I stand with King Damien. The assembly erupted in discussion. I stood frozen, trying to process Vincent's reversal. Elena touched my arm. You did it. Not yet. Words are easy. Implementation is the test. But watching parents cluster in animated conversations, seeing the traditional faction realize they were outnumbered, I felt something like hope. The assembly dispersed slowly. As the crowd thinned, Marcus approached. Permission to implement new nursery protocols. If schedule restrictions are lifted, we'll need reorganized guard rotations. Granted, work with Elena. After Marcus left, Vincent remained. That was unexpected. I kept my voice neutral. I meant what I said. Did you, or was that maneuvering? Vincent's jaw tightened. I deserved that. He looked at the torchlit clearing. Last night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what Marcus said. And I realized I taught my son protocols mattered more than connection. When Thomas died, we were already distant. I told myself proper boundaries. It was fear. Fear of what? Of loving him too much. Of being vulnerable. Of admitting my father's way wasn't the only way. He met my eyes. You're doing what I couldn't, choosing children over pride. That takes strength I lacked. I didn't know what to say. Thank you for being braver than me. After Vincent left, I stood alone as snow continued falling, feeling like maybe I was finally becoming the king they needed. The weeks following brought changes that felt revolutionary and fragile. Young parents embraced the new freedoms immediately. Mothers held infants for hours. Fathers attended feedings without permissions. Fewer children cried because parents responded immediately. The older generation watched with disapproval but said nothing. To me, at least, Elena thrived. She kept our sons in our chambers most nights, nursing when they fussed, singing those Northern Ridge lullabies. I'd wake at odd hours to find her in the rocking chair with all three balanced in her arms, and the peace on her face made every risk worthwhile. But peace is temporary. 3 weeks after my announcement, scouts reported unusual activity along our southern border. Silvercrest wolves in the neutral zone, not crossing, but close enough to send a message. Marcus brought in intelligence personally. They're probing father, testing if we're vulnerable. We stood in my study with maps spread across the desk. Increased patrols, double watch rotations. Already done, but the men are asking if the changes make us look weak. What do you think? I think Garrett will attack regardless. He's been looking for excuses. The timing is unfortunate. He traced the border. If we respond too aggressively, it confirms insecurity. Too passively, he reads weakness. We respond proportionally. Show strength without provocation. Border provocations increased over the next weeks. Garrett's wolves didn't cross into our territory, but made their presence known, howling at night, leaving territorial markers projecting threat without committing to engagement. Psychological warfare. And it was working. Warriors wanted permission to retaliate. Conservative council members muttered this was exactly the consequence they'd warned about. I held firm because I didn't know what else to do. Then Marcus came at midnight without knocking. Father, we have a problem. Internal. Vincent. How did you know? Marcus caught himself. Yes, he's meeting with Thomas and 4 council members. Planning something. A coup attempt. I'd feared this. Evidence? One of Thomas's guards is loyal to me. Overheard them discussing necessary transitions and difficult choices. Marcus's jaw was tight. They're building a case to remove you. Ancient laws allowed a king's removal if 9 of 12 council members voted him unfit. How many does Vincent have? 5, including himself. Needs 4 more. Who's undecided? Lord Theron is the key. Others will follow his lead. Theron, the old warrior who'd served my father, who valued tradition above almost everything. I need to talk to him. I found Theron in the Western training grounds where he went when sleep eluded him. At 73, still formidable. He continued sword drills as I approached. Your Majesty, late for a king to be wandering, late for a counselor to be training. Old habits. He sheathed the blade. You're here about Vincent's meetings. You know. Vincent thinks he's subtle. Half the palace knows he's positioning against you. Theron's expression was unreadable. Question is whether he's right. You think the changes were a mistake. I think they were risky. Whether they're mistakes depends on what happens next. He gestured toward the palace. Your sons, how are they? The question surprised me. Thriving, healthy, happy, strongly bonded. And other children whose parents embrace new freedoms. By all reports, doing equally well. Fewer stress indicators, stronger attachments, better development. Interesting. Long silence. I have grandchildren. 3, did you know? I didn't. My son lives on the eastern boundary. Good warrior. Terrible father. Pain colored his voice. He follows old protocols because that's how I raised him. And his children are afraid of him. Flinch when he approaches. I'm sorry. Don't be, it's my fault. I raised him that way because my father raised me that way. Theron looked at me directly. But it doesn't make us strong, just alone. Hope flickered. You're saying, I'm saying Vincent is wrong. The old ways created strong warriors but hollow men. You're trying to build something better. He smiled grimly. My vote is yours, has been since you chose your sons over legacy. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Vincent's persistent. The coup attempt came anyway. Vincent called emergency council 5 days later, presenting his case with polished rhetoric. Garrett's border provocations, whispers from other packs, potential long-term consequences of abandoning centuries of tradition. Compelling argument. Even I was halfway convinced. Then Theron stood. Hi, General Vincent, you make valid points, but you're wrong about what those risks mean. Vincent's expression tightened. Lord Theron, I see a king who had courage to question traditions I never dared challenge. A father choosing children's well-being over political convenience. And a general so trapped in grief he can't recognize strength when it looks different than expected. The room went silent. The vote fails. King Damien retains full authority. Dismissed. Vincent stood frozen, then walked out. Thomas and his faction followed. After the chamber cleared, only Vincent and I remained. I suppose you are banishing me now? No, I'm asking you to stay. To consider, maybe both of us can be right, you about maintaining strength, me about showing compassion. I can't serve a king I don't respect. Then resign, I won't stop you. I met his eyes. But Vincent, you have been my friend for 40 years. One disagreement doesn't erase that. He looked at me for a long time. Finally, he sighed. I'm not resigning, but I'm not apologizing either. Fair enough. The crisis came from unexpected direction 2 weeks later. Colt fell ill. It started with fever that wouldn't break. Elena woke me at midnight, fear sharp in her voice. Something's wrong. We summoned the head healer. She examined him with increasing concern. High fever, respiratory distress, no obvious cause. Professional calm did nothing to ease my panic. Sometimes the smallest ones struggle. He's a fighter, he'll survive. Elena held him close despite the healer's suggestion to let medical staff take him. Luna, if we had him in nursery with monitoring, no. He stays with me. Whatever treatment you recommend, we'll do here. They worked through the night. Fever climbed higher, 103, 104, 105. Elena refused to put him down. She held Colt against her chest, skin to skin, letting her body regulate his. She sang until her voice went hoarse. She wept silently while I gripped her shoulder, feeling powerless. This is my fault. The words escaped. What? The separation in first weeks, the protocols I enforced, it weakened the bond between you. I looked at our smallest son. If he'd been with you constantly, this connection would be stronger. Strong enough to help him fight. Then help me strengthen it now. She shifted, creating space. Hold him with me. I settled beside her, wrapping arms around both. Colt's skin was frighteningly hot, breathing shallow. But as we held him together, something shifted, a spark of connection, fragile but present. Marcus brought Ashton and Emmett hours later. Maybe if all three are together. The sibling bond might help. We arranged them carefully, Colt-centered with brothers pressed close. Ashton nuzzled against Colt's face. Emmett placed a tiny hand on Colt's chest. Slowly and possibly, Colt's breathing began to ease. The fever broke 36 hours later. Gradual decline that took hours to confirm. By dawn, Colt slept peacefully, skin cool, breathing steady. The healer was baffled. I've never seen a fever that high resolve without intervention. The bond, Elena's voice was rough. The connection saved him. That's not medical. It's exactly medical. You said parental bonds help infants survive. This proves it. She looked at me. If he'd been in a nursery with servants following old protocols, he'd be dead. The realization hit like a blade. My traditions had nearly murdered my son. Only Elena's defiance had created the bond strong enough to pull Colt back. I left before anyone could see me break. Marcus found me in the armory. He's going to be fine, Father. This time, what about all the children who died over 3 centuries because our traditions weakened bonds that could have saved them? My voice cracked. How many deaths are on my hands? You can't blame yourself for what you didn't know. Yes, I can. I'm king. It's my responsibility. I turned to face him. Your childhood, the distance, that's my fault. I followed my father without examining whether it was right. I'm not broken, Father. Damaged, maybe, but functional. That's a low bar. It's realistic. He moved closer. You made mistakes, but you're the first one who admitted it. The first who tried to fix it. That counts. After he left, I returned to our chambers. Lena was asleep with all 3 sons in her arms. Peaceful, safe, loved. I knelt beside them and made silent vow never again would tradition take precedence over the wolves I loved. The pack needed to know. I called assembly for the next evening, smaller this time, just families with young children. 3 days ago, my son Colt nearly died. A fever that should have killed him. Healers tried everything. Nothing worked. The crowd murmured. What saved him was the bond with his mother, with his brothers. Constant physical contact, deep connection from never enforcing separation. I paused. If we'd followed old protocols, if Elena had obeyed my initial commands to limit contact, that bond wouldn't exist. Colt would be dead. Heavy silence. I'm not saying bonds prevent all illness. I'm saying they provide something medicine can't, connection that gives children reasons to fight. I looked at assembled parents. The changes weren't just about comfort. They were about survival. A young mother raised her hand. My daughter has been healthier since I started keeping her with me constantly. It's not coincidence. Healers are documenting it. Children raised with constant parental contact show stronger immune responses, better stress regulation, faster recovery. The healer stood adding clinical weight with numbers and evidence showing clear health improvements. By the end, even skeptics looked convinced. Vincent approached after the crowd dispersed. You were right about bonds, about changes. He spoke quietly. I'm sorry I fought you. You were grieving. That's generous. He looked toward the nursery. When Thomas died, I blamed everything except the actual cause. The water was too hot because I demanded extra blessing. Servants followed my protocols exactly, and it killed him. Vincent, let me finish. I've spent 20 years telling myself more rules, stricter protocols would prevent tragedy. But you just proved the opposite. Sometimes the rules are the tragedy. His eyes were wet. I can't get Thomas back. But maybe I can help make sure other children don't die from the same misguided devotion. What are you saying? I support you, genuinely this time. You're building something better. I want to help. I searched his face for deception and found only raw honesty. Then help me convince the holdouts. Consider it done. That same week, disturbing intelligence arrived. Marcus entered my study with a grave expression. Father Garrett's formed an alliance. Silvercrest Ridgeline and Storm Pass. 3 packs, combined force of 500 warriors. I studied the map. 3 packs surrounding us on different borders. Within the month, they're waiting for opportunity when we're vulnerable. We're never vulnerable. They think we are. Garrett's been spreading word that Iron Peak's gone soft, that reforms prove we've lost our edge. Marcus traced attack routes. He's convinced other alphas we're easy prey. We had 300 combat-ready warriors, outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. Recommendations. We could fortify and wait, make them come to us. Marcus paused. Or I volunteer to meet with Garrett. Buy time while you build a coalition. He'll kill you. No, he wants legitimacy. Killing an envoy would turn packs against him. Marcus met my eyes. I can stall him, father. The idea of sending my son into enemy territory made every instinct scream. But he was right. 2 weeks. If you can't secure terms, you withdraw immediately. Marcus left the next morning. I watched him ride south and felt the same terror as during Colt's illness. Over the next week, I sent envoys to 6 different packs. Responses varied. Moonstone's Alpha Sarah agreed immediately, 50 warriors. Northern Ridge committed 40. Smaller packs promised to consider. Meanwhile, Marcus's coded messages came back. He was alive, negotiating, stringing Garrett along. But tone grew increasingly urgent. On the 10th day, Vincent approached with intelligence. I still have contacts in Silvercrest. One sent word Garrett's planning to attack during a ceremonial gathering. Thinks you'll hold a celebration pack will be distracted and vulnerable. We haven't scheduled anything. I know, but he doesn't. I'm suggesting we use that. The strategy took shape. We'd announce a ceremonial gathering public enough that Garrett's spies would hear. Make it look like celebration, a moment of vulnerability. But prepare an ambush. Risky. It meant putting non-combatants in potential danger. But it gave us surprise. Marcus returned 3 days before the planned ceremony, exhausted but alive. Garrett agreed to attend as witness. Claims he wants to see our new ways. He's lying. Obviously, he's planning to attack during the gathering. Marcus pulled out document, maps troop movements, timing. He thinks he's been clever. Hasn't realized I was gathering intelligence. Pride swelled. Well done, son. Now let's use his arrogance against him. But fate had one more twist. The day before the ceremony, Catherine, my grandmother, who'd lived quietly in the palace's eastern wing for years, sent for me. At 88, she was frail but sharp. Boy, come with me. I followed her to the palace archives. Dusty records, ancient texts. You think you're first to question traditions? She showed me a leather-bound journal. King Edmund Blackwood, Iron Peak's founder, 317 years old. I opened it carefully. The pages were brittle ink, faded but legible. Entry dated summer, 3 centuries past. Today we lost our son Henry. My mate Isabel bathed both children in the creek. She didn't notice water too cold from mountain runoff. Henry went into shock, died in her arms. I cannot bear this pain. I will create rules, protocols, train servants, tested water, blessed oils, steps to follow. If we do everything correctly, this will never happen again. No parent should suffer this. Following entries showed Edmund's descent into controlling grief. More rules, more protocols, each designed to prevent accident, but becoming increasingly rigid, removing parents from the process entirely. In the margin, a different hand. Isabel's my husband makes rules from our pain. But no rules can bring Henry back. And these rules take our daughter from me. I hold her only when servants allow. What kind of mother am I, Edmund? If you read this after I'm gone, these rules you made are killing me slowly. Isabel died 5 years later. Edmund never changed the rules, just enforced them harder. I looked at Catherine, stunned. For 3 centuries, we've followed one grieving father's trauma response. Yes, Catherine's voice was gentle. Most traditions have similar origins. Started with good intention or specific context, ossified into rigid rules. Lost original meaning, kept the control. Does the council know this? I brought it to your grandfather once. He said the origin didn't matter. The tradition had kept Iron Peak strong. She touched the journal. But you, boy, you're the first Blackwood king brave enough to question. Share this. Let the pack know. I carried the journal back to my study, mind reeling. Everything, the ceremonies, the protocols, the distance enforced between parent and child, and all of it born from one man's inability to process grief. And we'd perpetuated it for 300 years without question. Elena found me there hours later. What's wrong? I showed her the journal, explained what Catherine had revealed. Oh, Damien. She read Isabel's note, tears forming. This is heartbreaking. And we've been following it blindly, making children suffer because Edmund couldn't bear the loss of his son. You're ending it. That's what matters. I should have questioned sooner. You questioned when you were ready, when you had reason to. She closed the journal carefully. Tomorrow when we face Garrett, remember this. You're not just defending reforms. You're breaking a cycle of trauma that's lasted 3 centuries. The weight of that realization settled over me. Tomorrow would determine everything. The ceremony grounds looked festive despite underlying tension. Banners, torches, a raised platform. 300 Iron Peak wolves assembled along with allied forces positioned in concealed locations. To Garrett's scouts, it looked like we'd gathered our entire pack for celebration. In reality, 200 warriors hid in surrounding forests. Garrett arrived at sunset with an honor guard of 20. He smiled, approaching the platform where I stood with Elena. King Damien, thank you for the invitation. Alpha Garrett, welcome. I kept my voice neutral. Quite a gathering, your entire pack. Most of them lie. Most of the crowd were warriors prepared for combat, families safely evacuated. The ceremony began with traditional words about unity and strength. I spoke about reforms, how Iron Peak had evolved while maintaining power. Elena added testimony about our son's health. Garrett watched with barely concealed contempt. Then his signal came, a wolf's howl from the eastern tree line. His warriors emerged from concealment surrounding the clearing. Except we were ready. Marcus's whistle cut through the night. Our hidden forces emerged from positions, and suddenly Garrett's encirclement was itself surrounded. His face went from triumphant to shocked. Surprise, my voice carried across the clearing. Did you really think we wouldn't anticipate? Garrett shifted to wolf form, an immediately massive silver beast with battle scars. His warriors followed. Chaos erupted. The battle was vicious and fast. Wolf against wolf, churning massive fur and fangs and blood. I stayed human initially, using blade because my aging body was better suited to technique than pure animal combat. Marcus led our warriors with brilliant precision. He'd positioned forces to cut off retreat routes, turning this from ambush into trap. Vincent fought beside him, old general's experience compensating for age. Elena fought too, despite my wishes. Deadly in wolf form, smaller but incredibly fast, using Northern Ridge techniques that caught Silvercrest warriors off guard. I tracked Garrett through the melee. He was cutting toward the platform, intent on reaching me. Alpha to alpha, I shifted, letting my wolf surge forward. We met in the center. Garrett was younger, stronger, faster. His first strike sent me rolling. His jaws snapped inches from my throat. But I'd been fighting before he was born. I used his momentum against him, let him overextend, struck at vulnerable points. We traded blows that would have killed lesser wolves. Then Marcus was there, intercepting Garrett's charge, giving me seconds to recover. Marcus fall back. No, we finished this together. Father and son fighting side by side. Something clicked into place. This was what I'd been missing. This connection. Garrett tried to separate us, exploit gaps, but Marcus and I moved like we'd trained together for years. We covered weaknesses, anticipated movements. When Garrett finally fell exhausted and bleeding, Marcus had him pinned while I stood over them. Yield! Garrett's wolf eyes burned with fury, but around us his warriors were falling or surrendering. He shifted human. I yield. Do you acknowledge Iron Peak's sovereignty, our right to govern ourselves? Yes. Bitter but clear. Good. Now get off my territory. But Garrett didn't move immediately. He looked around at the battlefield, at casualties, at futility. You could kill me, cement your victory. I could, but I'm trying to build something better than endless violence. I offered my hand. Go home. Tell other packs what happened here. Tell them Iron Peak's strength comes from unity, not cruelty. He stared at my hand like it was a trap. Finally, he took it, letting me pull him up. This isn't over. Yes, it is, unless you want to keep losing. His warriors retreated. We'd won decisively, publicly, in a way that would spread through packs within days. But victory carried cost. 15 Iron Peak wolves dead, 40 wounded. Allied packs suffered casualties too. Elena found me among the wounded, helping healers. We won. At what cost? The necessary one. Freedom isn't free. You taught me that. Vincent approached with Marcus, both battered but alive. Prisoners secured, Garrett's heading south. Vincent's expression was complicated. He asked to speak with you. I found Garrett at the southern border mounted and ready to depart. You fought well, old king. You fought predictably. He smiled despite himself. Perhaps I underestimated you. You underestimated what we were defending. Maybe. He looked back toward Iron Peak. The changes you're making, they're spreading. Other packs are watching. Good, let them question their own traditions. You're starting a revolution. I'm starting an evolution. Revolution implies violence. This is growth. Garrett studied me. My son Michael hates me. Did you know barely speaks to me? I raised him the traditional way, hard distant, preparing him to be alpha. I had the same problem with Marcus, but you fixed it. I saw you fighting together. That connection. Pain crossed his face. I don't know how to do that. The admission surprised me. This brutal alpha who tried to destroy us, revealing vulnerability. Start by admitting you were wrong. Then listen more than you command. It's not complicated, just terrifying. You make it sound simple. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than this battle. I met his eyes, but it's worth it. He nodded slowly, then turned south. Perhaps I'll try, but Iron Peak's victory today will be remembered. I watched him ride away, wondering if I'd made an ally or delayed the next conflict, year one post-battle. The following months brought changes I hadn't anticipated. Word spread not just about the battle, but about why we'd fought. Other packs heard about reforms, health improvements, bonds that saved Colt's life. Delegations arrived requesting information. Young alphas who wanted something different for children. Lunas fighting similar battles. Healers interested in medical data. 6 months after the battle, I called a summit of progressive packs. 8 alpha leaders gathered in Iron Peak's Great Hall. We're not forming an empire, just a support network. Share knowledge, defend each other, help each other evolve. Alpha Sarah from Moonstone spoke up. What about sovereignty? Each pack governs itself. This is friendship, not hierarchy. Debate continued for days. Eventually, we established the Council of Alpha's voluntary alliance of packs committed to progressive reforms and mutual defense. I was elected first chair with a 1-year rotating term. 2 packs refused clinging to old ways. We let them go. But the movement had momentum. Within a year, 12 packs joined. Within 220. Year 2, Marcus married a strong wolf named Elena. Different Elena, but Elena nonetheless from Moonstone Pack. They had their first pup within the year, a daughter. Watching Marcus hold her with tenderness he'd never received broke something open in my chest. You're doing better than I did, I told him. I learned what not to do from you and what to do from watching you change. He looked at his daughter. That's the gift you gave me, Father. The courage to be different. Year 5, Garrett returned. It had been 5 years since the battle. He arrived alone, unarmed, requesting audience. Why are you here? I asked when he entered my study. To learn. Simply without usual aggression. I've spent 5 years watching Iron Peak thrive while Silvercrest stagnates. My warriors are loyal but unhappy. My son won't speak to me. I'm failing my pack by clinging to traditions that don't serve us. So you want what? Permission to stay, to observe, to understand how you did this. He met my eyes. I attacked you, tried to destroy what you built, but I'm asking anyway. Absurd request, letting a former enemy learn our weaknesses, possibly plan future attacks. But Elena's words echoed evolution, not revolution. 6 months. You stay as guest, not prisoner. Participate in pack life. See exactly how we function. And then you go home and decide what to do with what you've learned. Garrett's stay was controversial but transformative. The fierce alpha who tried to kill us gradually softened, witnessing strength in gentleness. He struggled with cognitive dissonance. How could wolves be both fierce and tender? He spent time with Marcus learning how we'd repaired our relationship. Attended gatherings where Elena taught parenting techniques, sat in council meetings. When he finally left, he looked like a different wolf. Thank you. I don't know if I can change Silvercrest the way you changed Iron Peak, but I'm going to try one. Year 6, word reached us that Garrett had implemented reforms in Silvercrest. His son Michael had returned home. Changes were slower, more cautious, but genuine. The Council of Alphas grew to 18 packs. Reforms spread across the Rockies and beyond. Year 10 saw Damien. age 68, I decided to step down, not forced by age or illness, but by choice. Marcus was ready, the pack was stable, and I wanted years left to simply be father and grandfather. The succession ceremony was nothing like violent trials of previous generations. I stood before the pack and declared, Marcus Blackwood is ready to lead. I passed the throne willingly with pride. Marcus knelt. I placed my hand on his head in blessing. Lead with strength and compassion. Never forget power serves the pack. He rose as Alpha King. I stepped back as elder advisor. The freedom was intoxicating. Time to play with sons, walk mountain paths with Elena, teach grandchildren. Marcus had 3 pups now, lessons I'd learned too late. My own sons grew remarkable. Ashton became Marcus's second learning to lead. Emmett pursued healing, developing new techniques, building on parental bonds. Colt became a storyteller, preserving history. Year 20, Damien aged 78. Catherine died peacefully at 95. She'd lived to see revolution spread across the region. Her funeral was attended by wolves from 20 packs. At 78, I started writing this memoir, wanting to preserve lessons before age stole them. Garrett visited occasionally, bringing Michael and grandchildren. We became unlikely friends, 2 old wolves who'd learned growth was possible, even after decades of rigidity. Elena remained my anchor. At 56, still fierce and beautiful, still pushing for progress. Year 24, Damien. Age 82, I finished this memoir. Put down my pen and looked out at mountains that had witnessed 10 generations of Blackwood rule. I'd made mistakes, hurt people I loved, clung too long to traditions causing suffering. But I'd also learned, changed, grown. That was my true legacy. Not perfection, but willingness to admit imperfection and do better. My last entry grandson tradition without examination is just repeated trauma. Honor the past by improving it, not blindly replicating it. Know that your great-grandfather loved you before you were born, loved you through every word of this story, loved you enough to tear down walls keeping people apart. Be strong, be kind, be brave enough to change your mind. I died at 82, with Elena's hand in mine and all 3 sons present. My last words were no regrets. They erected a statue in Iron Peak's Great Clearing. Not me in armor, just kneeling holding 3 wolf pups with inscription, "The Father King who taught us true strength is love." The Council of Alphas grew to 30 packs. Reforms spread across the continent. A generation of wolves grew up knowing they were loved, that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that tradition served them rather than enslaving them. All because one stubborn Luna refused to let her children suffer, and one old king finally listened. That's the story I leave you. Learn from it, build on it, make your own mistakes, and have courage to fix them. The future is yours. Make it worth the battles we fought to give it to you.